that awesome? Happy Thursday, everyone. Who I see we have one person, girl. I'll be so excited. I see we have two. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Don't be afraid to say hello to us in your comments. And yeah, don't be afraid to say hello. I have the beautiful Shelarri here with me. Hey, Narada. I'm gonna have to go into Facebook so I can see who's actually talking to us because it's just showing, their name. It just shows Facebook user, but I want to be able to see who's actually making the comments. But Curtis. Hey, Curtis. We got Curtis. We got Narada. Hey, listen, if you all have just tuned in, hey, Latoya. Actually, Shelarri, this is the young lady that I was just telling you about.
Oh, okay.
And y'all coming in so nice with the comments. This is my girl Toya that I was telling you about, that I believe you two should certainly connect.
Definitely.
Hey, Kiasha. Hey, Auntie Lori, regards to breast cancer. So for those of you that are watching, everybody that's watching know a woman. So please share the stream. Share the stream. I know that this is going to be such a wonderful conversation with Shelarri and myself. And I just thank you all for tuning in. We are going, as soon as Shelarri get back, we're going to jump right in because I want to respect your time.
We was gonna die.
What'd you say?
We was gonna die.
Your computer was going to die?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, this is so, we had this conversation before we went live.
I know, and I didn't do it. I was too excited. Like, okay.
Okay.
Ready? Hey, y'all.
You know what? You are as always, look, Toya said, come on, frames. As always, you are, I'm so grateful that you tune in. You could be anywhere else on a Thursday night, but you all choose to spend an hour with me as I continue to talk to, women every week. Curtis is on here cutting up already. And he said that was a quick bathroom break. But I thank you all for your continued support every single week on the RETV network. So please do follow, like, and share the stream. Tonight, I really wanted to speak to Shelarri because of what she does for women. And I didn't find out what Shelarri did for women. Hey, Camille said, hey, Larry.
Hey, Camille.
So because of what Shelarri does for women, it's a big deal. And we know that women are plagued with breast cancer. And most of us know someone, if you have not yourself been someone that has, Curtis says, say hi to me, Larry.
Hey, Curtis.
See what I'm saying? That's what I'm telling you. It would be already acting up. Already cutting up. But most of us know someone that has been affected by it, right? And I know before we dive into it, I told Shelarri we're gonna go back a bit to bring us to the woman that she is today. And for those of you that don't know, I met Shelarri in 1991 at Samuel Morris Middle School. And she was an 11-year-old. I was an 11-year-old, and we went on to high school together.
Yes, we did.
She comes from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in one of the most incarcerated zip codes. And I put that on the description when I was getting ready to do the show. One of the most incarcerated zip codes in America. Shelarri was a teen mom, and she had a mother that refused to allow her to become a statistic. And I love that story. Let's just go back a bit before we start diving real deep into where you are today and what you do. Let's go back to Shelarri at 11. What do you remember about her?
Shelarri at 11. A nerd. Shelarri at 11 was a nerd. I'm my mom's only child. Mm-hmm. So I was a spoiled nerd at that.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, growing up on 26th and Capitol, We owned a convenience store. So I didn't have the normal come home after school and do your homework and watch TV. My bus actually dropped me off at our corner store. And I would makeshift a desk out of 12-pack sodas and build me a desk and do my homework. And when I was done doing my homework, I would wait on customers.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would bag penny candy or um, take receipts and put them in date order for the bookkeeper.
Okay.
I was given small tasks like that, and that went on until um, actually high school. Because in high school, what would happen is my mom and my grandmother worked other jobs. My grandmother worked at Pat's, and they would be at work. So I would ride the bus to the store, and they would close. My grandmother would close at 2, and at 3 o'clock, I would open back up. The security guard would be sitting in the parking lot waiting on me.
Mm-hmm.
I would open back up, and I'd run the store from 3 to 9, 3 to 8, but
Mm-hmm.
alone. So I
Mm-hmm.
had that task. That was how the family ate.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my responsibility. So um, just a tad bit different. And
Mm-hmm.
so I decided that I wanted to er.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the 11-year-old Shelarri.
Mm-hmm.
Branch out to high school, and I
Yeah.
had a lot of freedom because my mom was at work.
Mm-hmm.
Running the store, kind of had a access to a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be home until 11:30. Oh, pew,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I explored the world outside.
Mm.
That's when things got a little challenging.
Okay.
Um, so that was the high school years. So freshman, sophomore year was the challenge right there.
Mm-hmm.
And as every, I'm not gonna say every typical, but typical neighborhood child. Of course, I'm home. I'm sitting on the porch. I'm running on other people's blocks,
Yeah.
meeting people, and met
Mm-hmm.
a boy that was older than me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and explore, show me a different world. Honestly, I'm cut and raw. It was probably not the most. Wasn't nobody I would take home to my mama.
Okay.
He was into illegal activities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what did I do? Still ran after him because it was exciting. I
Yeah.
felt that that lifestyle was something different, and it was something that I didn't have any exposure to. Oh, this
Mm-hmm.
is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. And I ended up pregnant.
Mm.
No, well, rewind. Let me rewind that.
Okay.
I didn't end up pregnant then.
Okay.
I ran away. I was a runaway
I
because
remember that.
my mom was so strict and
Mm-hmm.
had oh, it's gonna make me cry. My
It's
mom
okay.
was strict and had these rules. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, I'm not gonna let my no. It was so I would pack a bag and pew,
Mm-hmm.
run away. And she would come. It got to the point where I was gone for so long. My mom filled out a chips petition because she would not give up. She filled out a chips petition, and
Tell us what that is.
it's a petition where they petition the court
Mm-hmm.
to take custody of you.
Mm.
Y'all, I went to jail. Like when the police picked me up, I went to jail and to the children's juvenile center.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was in there for like committing a crime, and I was in there for ran away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh no, I don't fit in here. I do not belong. This is not a place for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was basically there for safekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have no bed for nobody that didn't do nothing, no safekeepers. We're gonna send you out to some group home thing. And they
Yeah.
sent me out to a group home, y'all, on 42nd and Burleigh. And it was a blizzard.
Mm.
I never forget, it was like December. It was December 5th because it was
Mm.
my birthday. And they sent me to this group home, and I went in. And the thing about it was, I still went to school, and I had a friend who would get my homework. So
Okay.
I still was like a 3.5 5 students. I still did my homework and turned it in. I just wasn't present.
Mm-hmm.
And this group home, it was like, okay, we're gonna get you back in school. And my mom had bought me a new, it was green. It was a green and black coat. Um, first down coat. It was a first down coat.
Okay.
It was cold. It was a blizzard, but she saved. She came and she brought me a coat, brought me some clothes, and took me to school. I went back to Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. And Miss Benston was to drop. She dropped me off. They made, they had a little circle. I am thankful for my village.
Absolutely.
Bev dropped me off at this group home, and when she pulled off, I didn't go in the door. I wasn't going to no group home with all these girls that was bad, and I was not bad. I was not a bad kid. I didn't know how to fight. I didn't do none of that.
Yeah.
So when Bev pulled off, I went. It was a blizzard, y'all. It was like it had to be about 10 feet of snow. I walked from 42nd in Capitol, 42nd in Burleigh to 24th in Capitol. So now I didn't AWOL. I didn't from the group home. I plead and beg, but I remember I went and wrote on the back of my mom's car in the snow, "I love you."
Oh man.
And we got behind that. What happened? When they found out I AWOL, it was like, okay, I don't want to go to jail. I'm going home. I didn't AWOL. I went home. And my mom, with her soft heart, I kind of won her over. And okay, this is what it is. This is the story. This is how it is. Yeah, I was running after that boy. I was going from house to house.
Yeah.
Phew. So I went back home, and that she was a little bit more lenient, and she was letting me go hang out and those type of things. And that February, I ended up pregnant.
Wow.
And I was gonna run track because Bev was the track coach. I was gonna run track for the spring. How I found out I was pregnant was I went for my physical, and the nurse practitioner came out and she told my mom that I was pregnant prior to her telling me. And I'll never forget, we were at Family Health Plan on Port Washington.
Wow.
And I looked in my mother's face and she was like, "You won't be running track." I was like, "Huh? You pregnant?" Like, oops. And she was hurt. She was definitely hurt.
Yeah.
And the most powerful conversation she had, she said, "Okay, you're pregnant. It's probably too late to do anything about it. So you get ready." She said, "But I'm gonna tell you this. I'm not signing my name. If you think you're going down there and getting a welfare check, that's not gonna happen. And I'm not signing my name to anything. You're gonna find a job and you're gonna figure out how to support this baby."
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, a real job. I can't work at the store. Like I'll just work at the store. I'll keep no. You got a job at TJ Maxx." And they put me in department 6080.
Wow.
It was the domestic department where they sell home goods and stuff. And they want them big old rugs. No, that ain't gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Lady, no. So I worked at TJ Maxx for about a month, I say. And I went on a Saturday and it was extremely busy.
Yeah.
I went to Pick and Save. They had a Dairy Queen. Went to that Pick and Save to that Dairy Queen. I was like, I ain't going back. Went on break and I did not go back. But my mom sat at the table. She sat me at the table and she was like, "Hey, this is what y'all gonna do. Y'all gonna figure this out. You're not gonna statistics. You're gonna finish school."
Yes.
And at that time, my dad worked in the broadcast industry. And he worked for Howard University for he taught at Howard University.
Wow.
And of course, when your parents work for colleges, one of the perks is that your children go tuition free. So I just knew that I was going to Howard. I was going to Howard. My daddy worked at Howard. I'm going to Howard. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we won't go to Howard. We were going to go to Lane. So I got accepted to Lane. And Oh, okay. My mom was like, girl, you and your baby, you better apply to Alverna where you can take your baby with you because that's where y'all going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I'm not. My daughter's grandmother, her father's mom,
Mm-hmm.
was willing to take the baby and let me go to school. She was willing to do what she needed to do. And my mom was like, no, you're not a misfit. You opted to have this baby. You
Mm.
raise her.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna do what you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna have to get it together.
Yeah.
And needless to say, she is 26 right now. Um,
Wow.
I am absolutely proud of her. Um, my biggest goal was to not have her meet statistics, just
Mm-hmm.
because she came from a teen parent.
Yeah.
I want you to follow in my footsteps. And
Mm-hmm.
now we 26, and I'm like, will somebody please marry her to get her off my hands? Somebody come and take this girl off my hands.
So your mom played an instrumental role in making sure that you did not fall victim to what was really, not a foreign concept, especially in the zip code that we grew up in. We saw teen pregnancy like it
Like,
was it was normal,
mhm.
like there wasn't anything shocking, especially in that neighborhood, the drug dealing. We had BOS, we had all of the gangs. We
We
were
had all
in,
of the games,
we
and
were right there.
I honestly can say that my baby's first birthday, her father was in jail,
Mm,
and that was an eye opener. Like, no, we can't live this life. Yeah,
yeah,
it's fun and games because we have money, we have fun. I
yeah,
don't want for anything, and this is not the life that no.
yeah.
And it was very, very important because that's his only child. Lord, I thank him because to this day he's still instrumental in our life. But it came a time, because he continued. She was 7, and he picked up a Fed case, and
Mm,
he went away. He fought the case. So she was about 9 when he initially went to jail, but he went to jail for 9 years.
mm,
But he still played a very, very, I mean, his family, they're Southern rooted. They're from a rural little city in
okay,
Mississippi.
okay,
And it was all hands on deck.
beautiful,
When I
okay,
say hand, they did not care. Um, but even so, he would email. That's when, like, when they first got this email, we used to have to get those CDs from where we used to go up there to Kohl's,
okay,
get those AOL CDs so we can have internet access.
uh-huh,
And he would send her emails, like,
mm,
check your email and send your mom, send me your math problems if you having trouble with math because your mama can't count. It was jokes such as that, but he
yeah,
still tried to help, and he had little odd jobs while in prison. And they sent when you get into the federal system, they sent him way to, like, some part of Louisiana. And I'll never forget, we was on a road trip, and
mm-hmm,
we went to Mississippi to see my grandmother. And I said, well, since we're this close, we
mm-hmm,
might as well go on a visit and see your dad.
yeah,
Girl, no, that is not the lifestyle that anyone wants to
yeah,
live. And
yeah,
to take a child to go through that. So, phew, yeah, it definitely built character. Um,
yes,
and I mean, we are who we are through our experiences. And
absolutely.
I experienced a lot.
Absolutely. I know you have. And why I can't believe we're already at 8:20. I want to thank everyone again for joining in because we're going to get to Shelarri and what she's doing today. But I wanted her to share her backstory because oftentimes people see you right now, they see what we're doing now, but they don't know what brought us
What it
to
took
this
to get
point,
here.
what it took to get there, and then just your love and your compassion that you have. Hey, Tasha, look, one of our class, like some of our Ransom had said hello earlier.
Oh, hey, Ransom.
And then Tasha, hey Tasha, if you all are just tuning in, please, share the stream. I know that again, so many women will be helped by this conversation. And I know for the gentlemen that are watching, you all are connected to women because we're going to get into the meat of what Shelarri does. for a living now. So you beat the odds. You had a supportive village, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And although her father was incarcerated, he still made himself available as much as he could to his daughter to let her know, I know I'm away, but I'm still present. For him to even say, send me some of your math problems, what a blessing. And then for you to be able to finish school, and you're in the health industry. And what some of you don't know is I ran into Shelarri this past summer, and we just happened to be in the same city and state at the same time. And, catching up with people, some people want to know what you're doing just to be nosy. But when you were telling me what you do, I said, Shelarri, you have to share that. And Shelarri gave me a face like, Toya, I don't want to be interviewed. I don't want to be on social media. I said, no, you need to come on and share this information. So, Shelarri, please let everyone know what exactly it is that you do for women.
So I help women that have been diagnosed with breast cancer. But actually, they don't even have to be diagnosed with breast cancer because I'm a huge advocate for doing breast self checks and mammograms early. But
Okay.
once you're diagnosed and you do have a breast cancer diagnosis, I help navigate women along their journey. So basically, from pre diagnosis to survivorship.
Mm-hmm.
And we help, like I said, navigate them along their journey. Once they are diagnosed, we help them go through their paperwork and their diagnosis so that they fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so much emotions involved when you're diagnosed
Mm-hmm.
that what the physician is telling you, you have no point in retaining
Mm-hmm.
your own understanding it. So we help them understand it. Um, but most importantly, if women elect to have a mastectomy or if they are needed to have a lumpectomy, which is when your breasts are removed,
Mm-hmm.
um, we help fit them with prosthesis after.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 to 8 weeks after their mastectomy, they can come and they can see me for prosthetics.
What have you noticed with the women that come in after they've lost their breast
Um,
cancer?
a lot of women think that their breast made them a woman. So they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they are not a woman. It's so much emotion tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
So a especially women that are in relationships with their husbands, they don't know how their husband will understand them and
Yeah.
accept them. But who sits and talks to the men and tell them that this is what's going to happen with your wife? She's
Yeah.
going to lose her breast. This is what you need to do to support her. No
Mm-hmm.
one has those critical conversations. Also, what I notice, and it's us in our culture, is we are afraid to share that this is what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a secret, and no one is to know that has
Mm-hmm.
been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Or I see so much. We are diagnosed at a later stage where it's untreatable.
Mm.
And
Let me stop you right there. Let's talk about some of the warning signs because we were kind of talking about that before we went live, where you were talking about the nipple. Somebody may just kind of brush off the fact that their nipple is shaped a certain way or they get a rash. Let's talk about some things that's not so common besides the lumps.
besides the lump, so you can have a nipple that's inverted, that's indented, but people like, oh, it's just maybe it'll grow, or they pay no attention to it. Oops, excuse me. Or if you have like an orange peel on the skin of your breast, if it looks like an orange and it's freckles, that
Mm-hmm.
could be a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So and sometimes it's a lump that's in the core and you can't even see it because sometimes masses are so minute that it's only detectable by a mammogram.
Okay.
But if you don't know, or you don't know what to look for or expect, it's you you just like, well, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna
Mm-hmm.
oh, something right here. Oh, maybe I'll put some Vaseline on it.
Yeah.
It's just those things we try to self remedy it, and that's really not healthy.
Yeah.
And what happens is women in the African American community have barriers in place. We don't have access to care. We don't have a relationship with a primary care physician. We haven't had a mammogram, yet alone had a complete physical. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't know, or we don't know our family history because breast cancer is hereditary.
Mm.
And sometimes it skips a generation. So it could be your grandmother, not your
Yeah.
mother, but then you, or
Yeah.
it could be two generations. But we
Mm-hmm.
don't have those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is my friend Latoya, who, thank God, was healed. You know, I told you she had breast cancer, and Toya was pretty vocal about it. And she said it like, and I'm putting this up there, it was never felt by hand. So that's the importance of us
Having those
having those mammograms. Like the stuff that we will talk up
mm-hmm.
as opposed to our health is so unbelievable to me. And we are dying when we don't have to.
Definitely. We are dying because we don't have to. And it is definitely barriers in place for women of color because it's like we don't have the resources. I did a patient navigation meeting a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they displayed a picture, which picture A looked like it was the ghetto,
Mm-hmm.
and picture B was a suburban neighborhood, tree line, nice, blah blah blah. And they
Mm-hmm.
asked us to explain the difference. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
panel of 13, and 12 people said, "Oh, well, it looks like the picture A, these patients need help and they need the resources, and they need navigating. They need to know how to navigate. And picture B, they have the resources and they are already." No, that's not really how it is.
Mm-hmm.
How it is picture A, yes, they need the resources. They don't have access to care. They don't have the education because most people in these communities have an educational level of an eighth grader.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't read to comprehend. They read just to read. They have no comprehension of it. And they're receiving care from providers who live in picture B.
Mm-hmm.
That was my response.
Mm-hmm.
Because and it's a disconnect because they don't understand what's going on in
Mm-hmm.
A because they haven't lived it. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
that makes me unique because this is where I come from.
Right.
I understand. I understand that you might have childcare issues. I understand that you can't get to your doctor's appointments. I understand that you ain't never seen a doctor before because you're scared.
Mm.
So I feel that God aligned me to where He did today, so I could be that person for them
It's
to go to, and they can feel comfortable with it. I spent 18 and a half years at a large healthcare organization working with surgeons.
mm-hmm.
And I am extremely blessed because if it wasn't for my plastic reconstructive surgeon, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Why is that?
If it wasn't for her, one day I went in her office and I kind of like kicked my feet up. This is how cool we were. I like kicked my feet up on the chair and was like, "This is what I want to do." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Well, I need to be proctored for 500 hours. I need to be able to determine healthy healing post mastectomy wounds, and I need to know what to do. And this is this." And she
Mm-hmm.
went on the computer and she looked up at me and she was like, "Oh, make sure you wear scrubs tomorrow. Our first patient is such and such, such and such." And that's how it came. And that was like in 2015. So
Wow.
I've been doing this. I've been a certified mastectomy fitter for since 2016.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for quite a long time. It birthed a business, a worthy cause,
Okay.
and um, it should have been a nonprofit and not a business.
Okay.
It should have been a nonprofit and not a business because I was so compassionate about it. I would go and meet people and get prosthesis and pay for them out of pocket and give them away and this because these people didn't know or they didn't have insurance.
Mm.
So found out that they didn't have insurance or they didn't know what their insurance covered,
Yeah.
then went and I got my insurance license. So I'm a licensed health and life insurance agent. And
Wow.
everybody think, oh, you went and got these health and life insurance license to sell health and life insurance. No, I got my health and life insurance license to better help navigate these patients.
Wow.
So that's how it all came into play.
How beautiful is that? Is there a way? So I know I have your information going at the bottom. And again, I want to thank everybody that's joined in. Feel free to ask questions. I forgot to mention that as well. I don't know who all is watching, but if you have a question for Shelarri, please feel free to ask. Again, you guys can chime in wherever. If you haven't done so already, I would say, share share the stream, because there are a lot of people that have made it and there are some people that haven't, and there are ways in which we can still give back. Tasha's saying go Larry, because this is something I always say: we're all needed. And that's not my lane. You are the person that I will go to. I told you, if I got a question, I'm like, Shelarri, you know um that's your lane. And so there may be ways in which people, again, you guys can help. Maybe we can donate um, to your cause as well, because there's a lot more that you do besides fitting women, with their breast. And like you said, I know some men are watching and it may be kind of like one ear out the other. But if you are around women, you don't know what may happen to the women that you're connected with. And you need to be sensitive and have some type of awareness of what a woman could possibly be dealing with. Let's just start mentally with the diagnosis, hearing you have breast cancer, because I would think that most people immediately thinks I'm going to die.
I'm going to die. Like, and hey, just the diagnosis is not a death sentence. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I try to tell my ladies all the time. Like, hey, just because you're diagnosed, we gonna overcome this. And then it's the different treatments that they go through. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't need to have a mastectomy so they can save their breast, but
Yeah.
they have to go through radiation. They have to go through chemotherapy. But who educates the caregiver on what to expect when they come home from
Mm-hmm.
chemotherapy?
Mm-hmm.
How can we help make chemotherapy when they go to their infusion appointments? Can we pack their bag for them? Can we make sure that, okay, we know that those rooms are typically cold? Let's give them a blanket and some socks. Their snacks. Let's give them some materials to read, but something uplifting and positive, and give them something to fight for, because it's
Mm-hmm.
draining. They're already at an emotional low.
Yeah.
And let's not talk about if they do opt and they have to have a mastectomy and they lose their breast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like women are attached to their breast because it defines them as a woman.
Yes.
Rather they are from the itty bitty titty committee
Right.
to the large mahukas.
Right.
It's a part of them, and they've
Yeah.
had them since they were probably preteens.
Yes.
And how are you going to feel? I mean, if you are a man, I want to pull. Oh, here go one right here.
Okay.
If I pulled my bra off and this fell out, how would you feel?
Men, if you're on here, yeah, feel free to comment. How do you think you will react? Yeah.
Be like, oh, her titty then fell on the floor. um, but then, or looking as I look at women with these post mastectomy scars,
Mm-hmm.
some are botched, some went through reconstruction and it failed. So now they have a lot of concave walls, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of tissue. It's like a flap. It's disgusting. It and you have to be extremely sensitive. And sometimes men are not as mature as women, especially if we have a patient who's in her 30s or
Okay.
even in her 20s. Men mature at a later stage, so they might see it as fun and games, and that could cause you to go to divorce court
Mm-hmm.
because you weren't sympathetic enough or you were desensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone just made a comment. Yes.
So they put the fake ones in. So this is the thing. Let me educate you. So they gave you some implants. So a typical life for an implant is maybe 10 years. And then you're going to have what they call an exchange. So they'll take those old ones out and put some new ones in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing, the trend is women who have implants maybe 45, maybe even at 50, when it's time to take those out and do an exchange at 60, They're like, hey, I don't want these. I don't want to risk being anesthetized again and going through another surgery. So they take the implants out and then you wear the prosthesis.
Okay.
Also, some implants, it's rare, but it's frequent. They harden. So depending if it's the gel or the silicone, they become hard, like rock hard. And then what do? They take those out too. They do an explant. Now it's popular where we are using our own fat, and they market it from administration in hospitals as, hey, you'll get a tummy tuck at the same time. What happens is they suction the fat from the thigh region and from the abdominal region, and we build, or they build breast mounds, and then that fat is injected. And when it's suctioned out of the area, abdominal area or the thigh region, it goes into a canister and it spins, and that keeps it alive. But then when those breast mounds are built, that fat has 2 to 24 hours to find a healthy blood supply source. If it does not find a healthy blood supply source, that tissue then becomes necrotic. Necrotic tissue becomes a playground for bacteria. And if it's a bacteria playground, what do? You get an infection. So they debride, but there's no such thing as artificial tissue or anything that they can place there.
Okay.
So what do? Now you're gonna have a boob that's shaped funny and different, and you have some concave tissues on your wall, but we have shapers. You're back to the prosthesis again.
Okay.
So it's options out here. There's even custom prosthesis out here that are becoming popular, and it's more of the non-surgical way to have reconstruction. I suggest customs because, once again, it's dominated by this color. And most companies, they make prosthetics and they come in a cocoa or a tawny, but everyone's not cocoa and everyone's not tawny.
True. That's true.
So that kind of is a little frustrating.
Yeah.
And of course, I've voiced my opinion about that too. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's no big thing, make them all purple. Why? Because now we have our Latino women, we have women that are extremely dark, melanated, and you want me to put a boob or a cocoa boob, and I'm pitch black.
This, and again, this is why it's important for us to be. It's important that we have representation.
Yes.
And you have a sensitivity, obviously, towards women of color, because you are a woman of color, and you have been servicing these women, and people don't want to feel like they're left out in the cold as far as services go.
Yeah, the inclusiveness, and of course, I voiced my opinion. As many melanated women that there are in the healthcare field, I know for a fact that I am the only certified mastectomy fitter in the state of Wisconsin that's a woman of color. Certified through the BLC, I should say. Which is the board of certification. I have yet to meet more than a handful of women that look like me that are fitters.
Yeah.
And I actually travel throughout the Midwest. And I try to interact with those I come in contact with, but it's not. And I feel that we need women of color in the fitting room.
Yes.
Because they understand. They'll understand our trials, our tribulations, our barriers, the disparities. And I think that they'll be more of a resource. And that I think when I worked at the healthcare organization, a lot of the women of color gravitated towards me because I look like them.
Yes. And I think that's natural. That's human nature. We can't, look at someone sideways. Like we get it. It's human nature. But, it's amazing to me, Shelarri, that so many of us are affected by this, and for you to be the only one. And let me ask you this: have you put yourself out there for people to really know what you are doing? Because if I hadn't ran into you, I would have had no idea what you're doing. I'm like, we have to get the word out on what you are doing for women.
Some traction has been there. Some people, they've nicknamed me the titty teacher. But I don't think everyone knows to what capacity. They know that I do something with women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, but they don't know to that capacity.
Okay.
And I should say the women in the industry know, because with me being certified as long as I have, I actually go to facilities and I train other fitters or other women that's interested in becoming a fitter. So you have to have a course in order to take the certification. So I teach that class, but I go from hospital to hospital. It's usually hospital employees, DME facilities. So I go from organization to organization, train them, group of 8, but I rarely encounter us.
Okay.
But I train those fitters so that they can sit for the exam and become certified.
Wow.
And I actually travel from state to state. I have a 13 state territory, and all the cold states. Every state that get cold, y'all think that's where I go.
Okay.
So I meet and I encounter women every day. It's just, and the different experiences and the relationships. But they're so excited to be trained by me or to have me come in and visit, because I have the surgical background.
Okay.
So I have a lot more stories and a lot more education and a lot more resources to push on to them. So
This is awesome. Again, if you all are just tuning in, I have her information at the bottom. You all can reach Shelarri on Facebook at Larry Anderson. Because again, if I this might be my third time saying this, but some people, it's just good to have a resource, because you don't know what's going on, what may happen further on up the road. And I know that we have some gentlemen on here that have mothers, sisters, wives, females. And when someone is, going through something like that, you have no idea the magnitude of the fear that could be plaguing them at that time, what they have to fight through. And so the more educated we are, have some sense, some knowledge of what they could be facing, I believe it would help them with the transition. And I just want to remind us, the importance of us being where we're supposed to be. When we were talking over the summer, I remember you were saying you had on a pair of shoes that caught the attention of someone. And I want you to share that story, because I was telling Shelarri, I was like, Shelarri, you got to talk this up, because there is so much opportunity for you to help so many other women. And sometimes we take it lightly of just the simplest thing. We don't know how we might grab somebody's attention. I'll never forget one time we were heading to an Oprah Winfrey show, and I was ironing my shirt and got a hole in it. Stopped at my sister's house because we had to pick her up. And so I had to hurry up and change my shirt. And she was like, here, throw this blouse on. When we were getting ready to be seated at the show, the producer, like, we were about to sit in the back, but when the producer saw the color of my shirt, she was like, oh, that's Oprah's favorite color. So we got to sit closer. So sometimes we never know how a simple wardrobe, your shoes, something that we don't think is a big deal, it can open up some type of conversation. So let's talk about those. I think you had on some shoes, because I think you're saying you make it your business to wear like pink at some point.
It's my business to wear pink. My fingernails are always pink. So I don't think it's probably not a pink nail polish that I have not had.
Okay.
So shoes. So in 2016, 17, I partnered with the live shoe team, and we created a courageous shoe, which is pink and white. And I think the most sentimental part of the box is it's encouraging, and even on the tongue says, you can, you will, I did. And then the box, it's a magnetic box. So the box is a keepsake. So the shoe is a cross trainer runner, and it's called Courageous.
Okay.
And it's just in support of women fighting. My intentions for the shoe was to wear them at a walk.
Okay.
And now it's like, oh well, I like your shoes. And so now I want to say majority of the shoes I wear are pink, or it's a Courageous shoe.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me showing support and encouraging women to be brave, to stand up, that, like I said, the diagnosis is not a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It's access, to resources out here, but so many people gatekeep information. And
Mm.
I just like to connect the dots. And
Yes.
if this information can benefit you and you can use it, especially if it's going to save your life,
Yes.
I am willing to give it to you. That's the thing. Everybody wants to put a cost on something, and they say, oh well, you have to start charging for your time. My accountant was like, hey, this the third year you coming with some write-offs. You can't write this off no more, because they gonna say that you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And it's a way to get some to generate some money. So the me of writing of health and life insurance generated money, and Courageous generated money. So now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, now we're pouring into it. But it also gave me the opportunity to um pour into other people.
Mm-hmm.
Poured in to someone else, in Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and trained them, and now I have somebody else that looks like me that can offer these services.
That is beautiful. Again, if you all are watching, please connect with Shelarri. Most of us, women, well, we should be getting checkups. And before we went live, um, you were saying that you've seen ladies rather, as young as 23, 22, diagnosed with breast cancer. And when we were that age, it seemed like women there were, of course, in your 20s, you think somebody 40 is like, oh, right.
Oh,
We
right.
thought it was like the 40 and the 50 and the 60-year-olds. But when you told me that you've seen someone as young as 22, 23, my goodness, I think my oldest daughter is about to be 21
Mm-hmm. And
this month.
it's a possibility. And then it's different things, because now they haven't bear children yet, and now
Mhm.
they're diagnosed, and it's if it's hereditary, and if it's HER2, or um, whatever the various type of cancer they may have, it might affect their girl parts. So then
Mhm.
they might have to have a hysterectomy. They go hand in hand, depending on the type of cancer. So now it's a process. Okay, well, what do I do? Can I freeze my eggs? So yes, you can freeze your eggs. And what people fail to realize is, if you have commercial insurance, even state insurances, if you're diagnosed, Wisconsin, most states, all states have the Well Woman program. So it
Mhm.
helps look for ovarian cancer, gets you access to care,
Mhm.
um, breast cancer, and you can save your eggs. But now it's a whole nother process, especially when you're young, in your 20s, and you're diagnosed.
Mhm.
But I've never known, or I didn't hear of people saving their eggs and extracting their
Yeah.
eggs, saving them
Mhm.
but it is actually a thing, and it happens.
Mm.
These are the reasons that it happens, because they've been diagnosed with breast cancer at such a young age.
Mhm. Mhm. And this is why we have to continue to talk it up. I really am happy that Toya is on here, and I will say it again. I wanted you all to partner together because she's someone that has survived it.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? She survived it, and her organization, she's connected with a lot of women that have experienced it. And honestly, the truth of the matter is, she had this organization way before she was diagnosed. Way
Sometimes
before.
I think of that, and they're like, well, you're not a breast cancer survivor, you're out here, you're doing this, you're not a survivor. No, I'm not a survivor. And sometimes I'm like, Well, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever God throws my way, I'm ready for it.
Mm.
Even if it was, but I'm self checking. I self check every day.
Okay.
And they suggest that women do self checks
Mm-hmm.
once a week, once a month, however
Mm-hmm.
frequent you feel. I self check every day. I'm in the shower. I'm checking. I'm looking. If I feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is this? I am a huge supporter of mammograms.
Okay.
So of course we're going to do a mammogram, and people say, well, what if? What if I had a mammogram and they found something? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if I do a self breast exam at home in the shower and I feel something or I see something different? What
Mm-hmm.
next? Well,
Right.
what next? If you find something at home in the shower, then you'd schedule an appointment with your primary care physician so you
Mm-hmm.
can have a clinical breast exam. A nurse practitioner can do that, but connect with your primary care physician first.
Mm-hmm.
And you get in for a clinical breast exam, and that's when they check themselves. And if they see something or they feel that it may be something, then we go on to the next step, which would be a mammogram. If the
Okay.
mammogram is hard to read, it doesn't show anything, but the physician still feels there's a need, then we do a breast ultrasound. And that's when the dimensions, the size, and everything, if a tumor is there, sometimes it could be just fat. Most women have dense of African American descent have more dense breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's us that have the larger breasts that mass can hide between
Mm.
tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't see it, we don't feel it because we are larger boobed and we got too much tissue there. But now we see it. So then
Mm-hmm.
we go on to the treatment plans, and depending on the location, the mass size, or the genetic buildup of the tumor, that determines if we need radiation, if we're going to do chemo, if we need chemo in radiation, and then if we need a mastectomy. If we do it, the physician will be able to, because each woman is unique, better
Yes.
walk you through the next stages.
Okay. This is, I wanted to, not even realizing when I asked you to come on, I was just going down the list and just plugging people in. I'm like, okay, let me see if Shelarri is available on the second. Not even thinking about the fact that this is Women's History Month. And as women, my goodness, we are so notorious for not taking care of ourselves. And
We're so
especially, I
busy taking care of others.
so busy taking care of others, so busy, trying to keep it together or look the part. And I was watching a show, and it's like, what does strong look like, really? And it's for women of color, especially Black women. We've been told that we're strong, and we felt that we had to be strong. We had to keep going, even from, I think about like your childhood was preparing you for the businesswoman that you are today. You were working in a store as a teenager, as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
so those skills, like, we can't take it for granted. And we shouldn't minimize our beginnings, because further on up the road, it's like those skills that you were acquiring has helped you be the woman that you are today, as the businesswoman that you are. But as women of color, especially just women, period, we have to do better at pausing and taking as much care of ourselves as we can.
Mm-hmm. Not just self care on Sundays, or well, we just set it aside. Yes, that's very important, but most importantly is that we're in tune mentally. Because if
Yeah.
our mindset, if we're not there mentally, we
Hmm.
won't be able to combat anything that comes for us.
Hmm.
So definitely alleviating some of the stress and the other things that we neglect.
Yes.
So prioritizing us and putting us first, and I'm like I said, it's simple to do a self check while you're in the shower.
Hmm. Okay. Yes. And this is yeah, this is for the men as well. Encourage the woman that's in your life. Hmm.
Men get breast cancer too.
That's
Just
not.
so you know. So it's not just for women. Yeah, it's more rare, but I just encountered a male patient,
Hmm.
and when we talk diagnosis and coding things, the codes are built in the industry as absence of breast women, or but it's no absence of breast men. So now you have to fight with insurance companies because he was a male diagnosed with breast cancer. So now that's a whole nother thing. And I actually sit on the board for Susan G. Komen for advocacy and policy, and that is something that I presented. So we probably will be seeing that going to legislation, hopefully in the spring.
Wow. Wow. And that's not widely known.
No, it's not widely known.
That's not widely known.
And definitely men who get breast cancer, they definitely are going to keep it a secret. And
Yeah.
so in the procedure, what it's called a gynecomastia. And instead of a mastectomy, men are having gynecomastia. So that's the removal of a male breast. But insurance companies won't cover a mastectomy or a prosthesis or anything for a male. But he was actually in search for a prosthesis because he had it in the left breast and he wanted to make it even with the right breast. So it's just a cover, like a shell. We call it a shell. And he wanted one. And it's like, okay, now you got to fight with insurance companies, and they haven't even made a code like this. So that was where I felt like, okay, this is my position to say, hey, you guys, do you know this happened? And blah blah blah. It was like, oh really? Okay, well, look, this is something that we need to put on our to-do list, and maybe we can get a bill and we can get them to change that. But
it's a lot. You're one person. You need our help. We got to spread the word. Again, if you all are interested in finding out more, like I don't, Shelarri has told me, she was like, hey, they can reach out to me, inbox her, start somewhere, ask those questions. And I believe that Shelarri, like tonight, you gave us a lot of information. It is so important for us to take care of ourselves. And I had someone on here a few weeks ago talking about, even the food that we eat. Our health is so important. I had someone on last week talking about, our mental health. Our overall health is so important. So what good is it that you have perky breasts, but your mind is all over the place?
Right, mind all over.
You know what I'm saying? So I know we're closing in on the time, and I want to thank everybody for joining in. But before we go, I always like to ask the guest to finish this statement. There's nothing like
a supportive village. There's nothing like a supportive village.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not know, you don't have to know everybody in your village, but it takes a village. It takes collaboration for anything, any seeds planted, for anything to harvest. No one can do anything alone. You might think that you're Superwoman and you have superpowers and you can do it, but no one can do anything alone. And sometimes your village is of complete strangers.
Yes. Yes, I believe that. And I think sometimes when we've heard that African proverb, yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but that child grows up and it's just like, we shouldn't be dispersing. We still need people. And that's why I'm big on connections. Again, we can't be afraid to talk about this. We can't be uncomfortable with this subject. Like, again, men have to be educated as well as women, because like you said, how is a man going to feel, your wife, you've been messing around with, or whomever, whatever female you've been dealing with, messing with her breasts, and all of a sudden they aren't there. Making sure that you're sensitive to that. So thank you for being our village, our breast cancer guru, because there's so much information that you have, and we will do better with taking care of ourselves. So I pray that, and everyone, they're telling you thank you. That's not T. Lori.
Hey, Lori.
But we're gonna do better.
Definitely.
I believe wholeheartedly.
I'll hold myself accountable to, like I said, I don't gatekeep. I share information, resources. Women, if you are going through a breast cancer, any cancer diagnosis, I have a ton of resources that's available, from financial to social and emotional support. Please reach out so I can connect. I like to connect those dots. And I like to see us take advantage of them, because others take advantage of them, and that's why they thrive and they survive. And now you say, oh, I meet people that's 45 years survivors. Like, you had breast cancer 45 years ago. technology in medicine wasn't as it is 45 years ago as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys were able to thrive and survive 45 years ago, we definitely can thrive and survive another 65 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which we will. So on that note, I thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back next week. Same time, same station, RETV, Relationship Entertainment Television. I hope that you all be safe and be great.
Good night.